All right.
What's up?
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming into my house to do this.
Yes. All right. So you are Cesar Vigil.
One and only.
All right. So you are my brother,
Correct.
and I'm stoked to have you on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we talking about today?
Whatever, man. This is your thing. I don't know if you wanted to start it off with something.
All right. So just to lay some groundwork for the people listening, you are. I didn't want to tell people right off the bat whether you're younger or older than me.
It's 50-50 what people think.
Yeah.
Because
So
you're more happy and energetic than I am.
So we'll see. We'll reveal it soon for those that don't know. But you live in Reno.
Yeah.
And that's where I am right now.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it for now. How would you introduce yourself to what do you do?
It's complicated right now. I'm unemployed because of COVID. I was previously an engineer, a dental engineer, so
Right.
I know a lot about teeth that I never wanted to know, but I had to. But I'm just trying to figure out what it is that I want to do.
Okay.
I'm balancing between a bunch of stuff, and I don't really know.
Yeah. So when I think about you,
Yeah.
I think about a guy. I think about a brother.
That's good. That's a good start.
But I think about your artistic side ventures is kind of
Mm-hmm.
because I know like mom will mention
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, CJ's up to so much, talk to him about that kind of stuff. Like she's just desperate to know
Yes, she wants to know everything that I do, and I don't tell her because I don't want her to find it because I know she won't like it.
because you've done stuff like you've dabbled in podcasting, you've dabbled in
I do
live
podcasts.
streaming,
I've done YouTube. I'm currently doing live streaming
let's
again.
plays and stuff, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but yes.
Okay, yeah. So where do we want to start? Where do we go?
Well, what are you most curious about?
It's a good question.
Because the podcasting is a complicated scenario because it's not just me, which makes
Right.
everything harder. Whereas the live
All
stream
right,
is just me.
let's keep it simple, and then
Okay.
we'll get into some bigger topics later on. So let's start with something. Oh, I guess okay.
Yeah.
Let's get off the bat. You are my younger brother
Yeah.
by 3 years. So one thing I wanted to kind of ask, because I don't feel like I've asked you this before, and I don't know if it's played any part in your life at all or whatever.
Mhm.
Do you remember when? Okay, hold up, stop.
Okay.
I want to describe you for the people that are just listening to this.
All right.
When I talk about you to people,
Okay.
I'm always like, he's my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's taller.
Yeah.
He's handsomer. He's got a better hairline.
For
He's
now.
smarter.
Okay.
So I like you're the better brother.
It's good to know.
You're the better of the two, genetic wise.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I introduce you to.
I mean, you can grow a beard. Mine's all disgusting and horrible.
All right.
So you got one up on me there.
So being that you still are younger than me.
Yeah, I'll continue to be that way for a while.
There's that weird moment. For me, I don't even remember the moment when you got taller than me. So
sophomore year of high school for me.
you remember?
Yeah, because there's 2 points that I remember specifically in terms of physical development for me.
Okay.
The point where I became taller than you, and that point freshman year of college where I was simultaneously the tallest and physically lightest person in our family. Because that was when you had been dating on Kura at the time.
Yeah.
And you guys...
And I let myself go.
Yeah, you let yourself go. So you were heavier than me for the first time in my life. And then mom and dad were heavier than me. And I was the tallest person in my family. And I remember that because I was like, this is weird. But I thought that was funny.
So you were always the tallest.
I became the tallest, and that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Okay. All right. So what is it like being younger and taller? Like what changes? Was there a dynamic change between us at that time that you can recall, or?
Not really, because like even in sports and stuff, you've always been faster than me, and like the difference in like football and soccer and stuff, like the athleticism didn't really change. I just became less bad in comparison to you guys because I was playing with people who were older and
Right.
started training earlier than me. So you guys are always faster and generally like stronger, at least in explosiveness. But I became more evenly matched by becoming taller. But it's like I don't think physically the changes happened. For me, what I remember happening is at a similar time, just because I got older, I started being able to match you at video games.
Right.
Because before, like high school for me, you would always beat me. And then somewhere around that period, I started to be evenly matched with you, and then I started to be better than you.
Which game are we talking about specifically?
You know, it's Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers.
It's Smash Brothers.
I don't remember you getting better than me.
Well, like, it went from me losing 90% of the games to it being more or
Like
less 50-50.
Yeah.
So for me, that's being better than you because I came from so far back.
Right. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily play into the height
No,
thing.
like physically, the height thing never really came that much into play for us as a dynamic, as far as I remember.
Okay, what I remember is we used to do this thing. I would think about like we would have like this wrestling thing that I would do to you, where I would like pick you up with your leg. I'd like pick you up from the ground and like grab you from down under.
Okay.
And then like pick you up over my shoulder or something for like ever. But then at a certain point,
I don't remember that at all.
you would start grappling back because you just had a lot more leverage now, and I couldn't pick you up anymore. But I was
maybe that's why I don't remember, because I stopped it. I don't remember you ever picking me up like that.
Those are good times for me.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
But as far as the video games, I guess we can. I don't know if there's anything there to talk about, but we grew up.
We grew up in a Nintendo family because you always got to choose what we got.
It was me.
As far as I remember, that's when mom and dad would ask what we wanted. They would, like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything about PlayStation or Xbox or anything. So you always chose the Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, I remember we had a neighbor. We lived in Winnemucca for a bit, and they had a Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
And we got exposed to it that way. But I remember it being like Diddy Kong Racing, maybe Mario Kart.
I'm pretty sure it was Diddy Kong Racing. I don't think we played Mario Kart until later.
And then at a certain point, we got introduced to Smash Brothers.
You saw it at Best Buy when you went there with Mom one time. I remember you came back and you were talking about, like, oh, there's this Fox character that you thought was so cool.
Man. Yeah, so we somehow we got Smash Brothers, and it was a big day, and we played that forever. And then Melee was the one where we
got deeper into it.
We played a lot and tried tournaments and all that kind of stuff. And there's some big moments in your life.
Yeah, I won one. I still remember that. I beat Vance and his Marth.
Yeah, so there was a I guess to give context to that story.
Yep.
Cesar and we'd just be playing all the time. And we had all these different sort of roster games where we would kind of develop which characters were yours, which characters were mine.
We always did that with games. We did that with Need for Speed and all that stuff too.
Yeah. And we wanted to explore our talents out in the real world.
Against other people.
And I've never been good in competition. And there was this one guy, you said his name was Vance.
That's what he went by. I don't know if that was his name
That
or
was
not.
his like cool guy name, because he was like the cool dude on the block.
He was the cool Smash player.
So he would always win. He had the long, sleek nerd hair.
I don't remember what he looked like at all. I just remember beating him.
And he was always winning the tournaments. And there was the one big day that you're talking about. We both entered, and I think I don't know how it worked. I think it was like maybe second round. It was you versus me.
It was before I faced him. It was the match before, so semifinals.
Okay.
Whatever round that would have been, because I don't remember how many players were participating at all.
And normally, I feel like before that, I would always get the upper hand with you in tournament.
You would always beat me. That was the first time I ever beat you at a tournament.
Yeah. And then you carried the momentum into the finals.
Yeah.
And you were playing as Falco, and he
Yeah.
was playing as Marth.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure
He
that was
Marth.
his guy.
Yeah.
And
I beat him. I did it. I overcame the odds. That was my story arc. That's the peak of my.
Because he was, I think he was mentally preparing to play me again and just destroy me like he always does.
Probably.
But being that you went up, it was like, oh, Falco's different.
It's the two differentiations. He's playing against the other brother, against the other space bird or whatever they call them. Because you were Fox, I was Falco.
Yeah.
And he was used to beating you as Fox, then he had to go up against me as Falco, and it was different enough where I was able to confuse him and beat him.
Yeah.
Because it was a very close game.
Yeah. So that was a nice moment that the family was able to take home a victory.
Yeah. I got free Magic the Gathering card sleeves because I won that tournament.
But we never really explored it further than that. It never became...
Yeah, we never went to a state tournament or anything bigger than a local, because it was just a card shop tournament. So the kids who knew about it would go there and do it. But beyond that, we never went and did anything bigger than that.
Yeah, try to qualify or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't even know how it worked back then. So.
The other tournament experience, because we grew up, I don't know, I'm thinking about the nerdum that
there's a lot of nerdy stuff. Yeah.
When we were playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
And I remember I feel really bad about this day when we went to the mall for a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament.
Okay.
And you and I were both super nervous being there. There's a bunch of people we don't know. Mm-hmm. Those places always smell bad and it's always weird.
Yeah.
And there's this line to go sign up, and there's two lines. So you and I stood next to each other in different lines. Mm-hmm. And what ended up being was the person you stood next to was a person you played in the first round.
Oh. I don't remember this.
And it was kind of the same situation with the Smash Brothers. Is I had the better cards or whatever.
You were the older brother, so you made the decks first.
Yeah, or something like that.
That's how it usually worked. Is you made your deck first, and whatever was left, I got to make a deck out of.
So the bummer part was neither of us were. I don't know. I'd say maybe alert enough to be all right. Actually, you go move to the back of the line. We didn't switch spots.
Yeah.
And then I just played you first round, knocked you out because that's how we always played. And then that was it. That was your experience at that tournament. And I'm always like,
we did other newbie tournaments at that same card shop that we did the Smash one at, and
that was more Magic the Gathering though.
We did a couple Yu-Gi-Oh ones early on, but then we graduated to Magic the Gathering, the big boy card game. Mm-hmm. Once our friend group started joining, right? It's more your friend group, but I was there.
Yeah, but there's that one in particular.
Yeah, I have no memory of that.
That's good.
Yeah, it didn't scar me.
I always feel bad
because
that day
it probably didn't seem any different because every tournament that we did, for the most part, I would end up going against you just by luck, and I would always lose. Yeah. So that's no different than normal.
It's just bad luck. But I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad that you've forgotten about it.
Yeah, I have no memory of that.
All right. The other, I don't know. Let's talk. I don't know how to transition out of that, but
that's fine. Any segue is a segue.
I'm thinking about personality.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about our family dynamic because we have technically.
Is everybody against dad? Yeah.
If we want to compare, let's say, our family to other families, we have a small family because we moved to Reno.
Yeah, we moved away from the extended family due to a lot of things that I didn't understand for a long time because I was 5 when we left.
So we moved from New Mexico.
Yeah.
We ended up in Winnemucca for half a year. I finished second grade there. And then Reno.
School, and then we moved to Reno, and then we moved to where the parents still live.
Yeah. So everybody's still out here. So when I think about our small family and our dynamics, it's you, me, dad, and mom. Yeah. And Pops is super stubborn. Mm-hmm. And Mom just wants everybody to be happy.
Yeah, and you and I are all constantly poking the bear, yeah.
And I don't know if, it's kind of the nature versus nurture too. I don't know if I'm stubborn because of Pops and just witnessing him being stubborn all the time, which made me stubborn. Because I'm stubborn, and you're stubborn, and Dad's stubborn.
I think that has to do a lot with just eventually standing your ground against somebody who refuses to,
that's a game you have to play, right?
Yeah, because if you want, I don't know, I want to listen to this music, and Dad's like, no, we listen to the music that I listen to in the car no matter what, because I'm the dad. I'm the dad, his old saying.
That's logic.
Yes. So eventually, at some point, you'll stand your ground, and in order to have any level of, saying that, you can't let up. So it kind of taught us, at least in some form, that being stubborn helps get your way in some way. Because if we didn't do that, we would always capitulate to Dad no matter what it was.
Sure.
That's just how he is.
So okay, I guess like the thing I'm trying to get to as well is how has growing up for you, learning these methods, how's that affected you in the real world? Like how...
Well, it probably got me laid off. That's probably why I'm unemployed, honestly. Because if I didn't learn how to... When I felt like I was being disenfranchised for something, because what I asked for in my job was higher pay and higher pay for everybody around me, because I felt like paying people who have engineering degrees $16 an hour is not good enough. And I was like, you need to pay them this amount of money as the minimum. And I was constantly harassing them about this. I probably didn't do it in the right way, but like...
At a certain point, you just
being
have
at
to
the position that I was in, as somebody who thought they had a very secure job because I was the head designer on the sub-department I was in, I figured I was secure in the furlough. But when they decided to get rid of my entire department because we want it better, it kind of feels like maybe that's not the reason, but it makes it feel like that's a big aspect of it. Because we're pushing leadership to not make as much money.
Yeah, because it's a classic, like, difficult to work with is like a thing people throw around. But when I think of the joke about that is sometimes what they mean is like difficult to take advantage of.
Yeah,
that's
kind of how it works from higher ups. But before that, on all of my reviews, the only point that people would complain about me about in terms of employee-employee relationship is that I didn't talk to anybody. For the vast majority of my time working, I just sit there and do my job. I don't talk to anybody. I listen to a podcast or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah, you clock in, do your job, go home.
It's like, it was the, I won't talk to you if you don't talk to me first mentality. Like I won't talk to you if it's not about work because I don't care about making friends at work. For a long time, until like a year before I got laid off, when we finally got people there who were more like me, so I felt like I was able to actually create connections with people. Yeah,
because I remember you started going to like the Christmas parties and that kind of stuff, or what kind of...
Yeah, because I worked there for nearly 4 years. There was 4 Christmas parties that I was there for, and I went to one, the very last one, because I finally felt like I wasn't just going to go and have to be around people I didn't like at work, but now they're drunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, everything happened. I got laid off, which ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Sure. So before we go further with that, like I'm thinking about was it always your methodology at work? Like
my base methodology.
You're pretty good at push. Okay. Let's talk more about the denture job, the engineer job.
My teeth scientist job.
Your teeth scientist job is you started there in a certain position, and then it's kind of like, from my perspective, it's a classic work situation where they kind of throw more tasks on you the more you learn, and they don't really give you more pay for it. And then eventually you speak up and you're like, yo, more pay because of more of this. And that kind of just got out of control at a certain point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what were you going to say?
In a lot of ways. Well, that's more or less how it turned out. But they, as far as I can tell, and as far as I was told in some unofficial regard, was that I was demanding too much. Because I started, the complication with that job is I interviewed for, if you know anything about dental technologies, I was going to be in the model room, which means I was going to be working with plaster. I was going to be making plaster casts of, people's teeth, because they would do an impression. I would take that and make a cast, and they would take that on to do other things with it. That was what I interviewed for. And then after four interviews, they said no after 2 months. Mm-hmm. And then a month later, they said, "Do you want to be an engineer?" Like, okay.
Sure.
So I went in, and it was complicated because they didn't tell me what my job was for 4 months. I just kept having to do everything they were asking me to do because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who was in charge of me. I didn't know who to talk to if I had problems. I didn't know who to call if I needed to, if I was sick. Like, I didn't know any of that because it was, for the first 4 months, from my perspective, my immediate higher up changed like 4 times. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know who to talk to, so I just won't talk to anyone. It was just easier. Huh. And then eventually there was a big mistake that happened. They blamed me, and I was like, I defended myself, and they still blamed me for it anyway. Yeah. And then I demanded more pay, and then it happened a year later, and then a year later, and then a year later. And
oh, gotcha.
That's just kind of how it worked. I kept having to readapt the way that I worked, so I would demand more pay because it was like a lot harder, stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't really want to know. I don't know what you want to know.
No. I guess I'm curious to hear about, maybe in hindsight, like you kind of said, you don't know if you could have done things, or maybe you didn't approach it in the right way or whatever. But I'm kind of curious as to what lessons you kind of come out of it with, if there's anything you really learned there, or if you just kind of, I'm not, yeah.
Well, if I wanted to take more advantage of the company, all I had to do is make friends with the people who became my bosses. Because one of the people that I started working next to became my boss later on, and because we butted heads a little bit, he didn't ever give me anything that I wanted. And then I got written up for talking back to him, and all this drama happened. Yeah.
So I guess the moral of the story is relationships.
The relationships get you a long way in business.
I guess
is the thing that everybody knows. It's who you know, not like what you know.
But I guess it's the difficult part of like knowing you have to do it, but like finding a way to want to do it at the same time is not just doing it to do it, but like
the problem with me is I didn't like them as people. Yeah. I thought they were bad people. At the very least, I didn't think they weren't people who I was compatible with. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't want to play Overwatch with you, okay? Mm-hmm. Don't ask me to play Overwatch with you. I don't want to play video games on the weekend with you. I just don't want it. It just doesn't seem like a fun time. Yeah. So then that became a sore point for them, which means I have a harder time becoming, closer interpersonally with them. Yeah. And then
because starting off on like the wrong foot.
Yeah, you start off on the wrong foot, and then that becomes the first impression in terms of friendly interaction or whatever.
Okay. And it's like that is difficult for sure.
Like how do I tell somebody I don't want to play video games with them when they're like 10 years older than me and have basically the opposite moral viewpoint that I do?
That's tough.
So it's like, I don't know.
Because that was almost more of like an office. That was like an office setting, work environment, right? Like. Yeah. I've never had the opportunity to. Well, I did the call center work. Yeah. And I had the same kind of experience where like I wasn't there to make friends.
Yeah, because like one of the difficulties with that job in specific was I didn't know how much of a career it could even be if I wanted to make it a career, because in that job, when you look at it, there was nowhere to go up besides replacing people. So it's kind of waiting for people to move on in order to have an opportunity to go up. Mm-hmm. It's like, how I'm just going to do this the rest of my life and hope that the person above me dies or quits. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know. It's not much of a career.
Yeah. So you all right. Yeah, because that wasn't necessarily the plan.
Yeah, because I said from the beginning, at least to myself, I don't remember if I told anybody, but I don't know what I would do if I woke up at the age of 30 and I was still working at that job doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. If I would have to quit if I was, because I started there when I was 20. 24? I was 23 and I turned 24 the first month there. So it's like, if I was there when I was 30, if I'd worked there for 6 and a bit years and I had not progressed, then I would have to quit.
Yeah. Something's not going right here.
Yeah, it's the wrong step if it's still a mystery what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask about staying on the stubbornness thing with friendships. Like I think about, I guess I think about myself on how I've got like my stubborn. So like if you think of, I'm usually like the host of like game nights, and I
Yeah.
set stuff up, and I like being the one in control.
Mm-hmm.
As like you said, like I picked the cards first.
Yeah,
I picked
you were
the
always
video
the
games
one.
we were getting, like whatever.
Yeah, you always did the same thing as dad, but from an older brother's perspective, I'm older, therefore I have,
Or yeah, even if I was,
I'm the king of this kingdom because I'm older than you.
because I don't even, because I don't, whether I was conscious of it or not, I don't know. At a certain point, I became conscious of it, but I think about like there's some times where I feel like I like people don't continue being friends with me because of how difficult I can be with my stances on like how certain things are supposed to go, or accountability stuff, and I'm stubborn on keeping on people about things.
About doing things that they say they're going to do.
Yeah, all that
Stuff
kind
like
of
that,
stuff. So I don't know if it's like that for you too.
It's a little bit of that, but it's not as much.
Because you've done really well with keeping the same circle of friends for like
my main
like
group of
ever.
friends. I've had the same core of friends for at least 10 years, and two of them I've been friends with since middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
yeah. So I'm wondering,
because you at a certain point you have to let people be who they're going to be, and if that doesn't mesh with you, then whatever happens happens. But like,
so you've kind of just gotten lucky with the core, and
well, it's because we change each other. Like
Yeah.
friendship changes you. Who you're friends with changes who you are, and who's friends with you changes who they are to some degree. And your stubbornness prevents you from changing to the degree that people want to still be around you, because it feels like they're growing up in a different direction than you are, to some affect. I'm not really sure how you see your friendships, because I haven't really thought about how. I thought about it a little bit, but for mine, my core group of friends, we've changed each other so much, and like what it is that we watch, what it is that we listen to, how it is that we talk, our inside jokes, like all that changes how you think about the world and look at stuff. But we're not the same person. Like my politics aren't the same as my roommates over there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're similar. We're all on the same side, but we have different viewpoints. But we're not cannibalistic where we have to all be the same, otherwise we can't exist at all. Like you have to allow each other to be different in order to stay friends.
No, for sure. I guess like for me, I feel like I have difficulties. Because I don't know how it was for you, but like transitioning to living with your friends is like a whole different thing too. Because, well, for me, it's like, oh, you're this person that I see in these circumstances, and this is my appearance. This is how I see you based on those experiences, and then we live together. And now it's like, oh, I see more aspects of you than just you on set.
There's a little bit of that, but
so it feels like for me, I always have difficulties with my roommates because it's like, oh.
Well, there's always going to be difficulties, because like you're going to have roommates who are either more controlling than you want them to be, or not. They don't do the dishes as much as you want, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's always an aspect to that, and sometimes there's bad days, and you have to let them have those bad days, because like you can't police them at all times. Like
just sometimes.
They're working 1,000 hours at work, so they haven't done the dishes for a couple of days. Like I'm not gonna jump on your back for that. Like I can do the dish; it's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
But like when it becomes regular, that's when it becomes a problem, and you just have to talk to them about it and hope that they are willing to change. And if they're not, then that's
Yeah, no, I guess I commend you for being able to sustain such a nice level of consistency with your living core group like that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
because my two current roommates I've been roommates with. This is the fourth house in the fifth year. This is the 5th year we're going to be living together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you guys do
we moved this is the first
you hop
summer we haven't had to move since we started living together.
Nice.
But yeah. I don't find it that difficult to maintain the friendship, because, I mean, it is weird when new people enter the fray, whether it's because they start dating somebody in the group and they start joining the group, and we realize like how much we have to censor ourselves in the beginning in order to not completely alienate them with all of the inside jokes that we do at all times, because it's just how we talk to each other. But it's making new friends is actually hard for me because of how consistent my friend group has been. that it's weird when I can't make jokes about anything a little bit. Because, I mean, that's just a thing that I do.
Yeah. Interesting. I was going to say, I don't know how it is making friends.
Okay.
Because, of course, I moved to LA 2 years ago now, and making friends down there is like a weird, different thing.
Yeah, because there's always that. I mean, I don't know because I don't do it,
Sure.
but I feel like there's that secondary aspect of you do film stuff, I do film stuff, so you'll help me, we'll help each other, and there's an aspect of like work to every friendship, which I feel like is kind of weird.
That's definitely the weird part, where it's like, I like working with you, we get along, we see eye to eye on a bunch of stuff, you're cool to hang out with, but we're not really going to hang out outside of film.
Yeah, because it's not
people
even.
don't hang out.
It's not even like making friends with your coworkers, where you know that the thing that brought you together was work. It's making friends with somebody, acting like it's friendship, but knowing it's about work, at least in some level. That's kind of weird to me.
The weird thing, it goes a step further than that too, where ideally, like, as I move forward as a director or even like a producer, that I'm not only just somebody that you can work with, but
Somebody you work for.
somebody you work for.
Yeah,
like,
you're making
I can
friends.
hire you and get you paid. So are you friends with me?
Because of money, just directly.
Am I paying you to be my friend?
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. Like, even on my on the feature, when I got to pay people even just little bits, and people are just so nice to me, I'm like,
it became a.
I'm like, why are
new
you
dynamic,
here?
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't know how it is for you in making friends in the new world.
I mean, it's weird because
Or how you do it.
I'm not outgoing. I'm very insular in the way that I do stuff. I don't go
You call it like introverted?
introverted. That'd be a better word. Like I don't drink alcohol, so I can't go to a bar and make a new friend. I don't really have any hobbies that I do outside, especially during the pandemic, making it a lot weirder. But it didn't really change anything dramatically for me socially. But it's like, how do you make new friends as an adult? I don't like. Do I join a book club? Well, I don't read that much. It feels like a fake way to do it. Like it's the same thing with dating. It's like, how do you meet people when you don't do things that have people around you that you didn't already know? It's like it's really strange.
Because I guess like the benefit is Reno. When I think about Reno now, it still feels like a more approachable space.
Yeah, it's everybody's. The whole city is based on socializing, going to a casino, going to a club, going bar hopping. Like that's become a huge part of the thing, and the pandemic has really hampered a lot of that for people.
Yeah, the arts especially.
The arts. There's a lot of art stuff. There's a lot of outdoor stuff. There's the river. There's the lake. There's hiking. There's snowboarding. There's like all this stuff that you do. You can run into other people and make friends with. And I just don't do most of it.
Right.
Like I've never snowboarded or skied. I've never tried it.
Is there anything that you've kind of considered dabbling? Like you said, you don't read, but it's like, oh, maybe I'll start reading.
We were starting to boulder a lot more, and then the pandemic happened.
Bouldering is a cool one. That's
Yeah, and you meet people there who are really passionate about it, and
because people just stop and chill like a lot of the time.
Yeah, because
you're just
you have to wait for your hands to cool down, so your forearms aren't pumped. You can actually grab the handles and stuff. But like, as soon as we started doing that more than like once every 4 months, they closed the gyms.
Yeah.
So like that.
Well, yeah. Right now, I guess right now the only way is social media, online.
And I'm terrible at social media. Like I've almost purposefully become bad at social media because I just don't like it.
Yeah, you've never been a social media guy.
I used to post a lot more. Like I have an Instagram, I have a Twitter, I have a Facebook. I haven't posted anything on Facebook in a year. The last 2 things I posted were about 10Ks I did on Thanksgiving. Like that's like I don't use it.
So okay, what's your?
Which makes it weird when you try to do things like live stream, which means you have to have a social media presence so people can remember you exist, because that's an aspect of how that stuff works.
Right. So are you planning on doing social media?
I've always thought it would be interesting to be better at it, because like I hate taking pictures of myself, which is something that Mom complains about because she never has new pictures of me because I don't take pictures of myself because I think I'm very ugly.
You're a handsome lad.
Thanks. But I've always like thought about trying, but whenever I try, I'm like, oh, this is just so exhausting.
It's
doing
no fun,
this.
right?
Like, I don't want to. Like, what am I supposed to do? Post my thoughts on Twitter and hope people notice? Like, I don't care. I don't.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, I don't know how most people go about it.
Because like, I don't care if people agree or disagree with me. I don't want to get in fights on the internet because it feels even less valid than getting in an argument at the grocery store or whatever. Because even, especially in the modern day, the way the arguments work is you already both have the
You're talking
idea.
about social media?
Or just in general.
Okay.
You don't get in an argument with somebody who you don't already know about something that you both don't already have a completed opinion on that you're not willing to budge on. Like, you don't get in a random argument. It's like, oh yeah, I think you have a good point and I'm going to change my mind. That just doesn't happen very much. It doesn't feel like.
Yeah, because I guess the only way arguments are ever productive is if it's acknowledged that you know more about the subject than I do.
Or even just know different things than you do. It doesn't have to be more.
Yeah.
Like, I have information you don't have, and you don't think that it's fake when I say it. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's so much pretense that you have to have in order to exit an argument with a different opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh. There's a burp coming up there.
Yeah. Gross.
So the thing that I think about is, I think it was a quote, I forgot where I heard it, but it's that ideally people should be more into listening to understand versus listening to respond. Because you're describing the interaction between two people that are just listening to respond to say the thing that they believe.
Yes, they're waiting to hear a point so they can respond to it with their predetermined argument. So that way the other person can respond with their predetermined argument because no one's listening. That's That's hitting the nail on the head.
It's okay. So that kind of element is preventing you from even exploring the social media landscape because that's kind of built into, or
well, yes and no.
Because you don't have to have photos of yourself technically to go on Instagram or whatever. You can.
But like, I'm not trying to become a photographer or whatever, and I don't make good-looking meals. Like, most of my meals look like a bowl of chili. Like, I'm not trying to prove anything about my plating or about the process of cooking. I'm not trying to go back into videos right now. Like, I don't have anything that I want to show people most of the time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Maybe once I get better at the guitar or whatever, I'll start making videos of that. But like,
of you playing the guitar?
Like, hey, look, I learned this riff.
Okay.
Or something like that. But like,
that makes sense.
Social media has more or less no appeal to me besides seeing how my friends are doing and what they're doing. And even that is like minimal. Like, I follow like 10 people on Instagram. Like, I'm not trying to see everybody's lives. Yeah.
Because you've always, I guess, in that space, you've always been kind of like a private guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You enjoy.
Privacy is important to me.
Is it the privacy that's important, or is there an element of control there where you don't want people to know stuff?
It's both. Because I don't want people to know things that I didn't tell them. Like, I don't want somebody to come up to me and say, "Oh, I heard you're dating what's her name?" Like, how did you find out about that? You shouldn't know that. I didn't give you permission to know that.
You're not my friend on Facebook. How do you know?
You're not my friend on Facebook. Because a coworker came up to me early last year and they're like, "Oh, what happened to that girl you were dating?" I'm like, how do you know that? I'm not friends with you on social media. I don't talk to you outside of work. I don't even talk to you inside of work. Why did you know this?
Yeah, because
I'm really uncomfortable with that because it feels like it's become more acceptable to cyberstalk people, you know? Because one of my coworkers told me one time that she likes to cyberstalk other coworkers online just to see what they're up to, even if she doesn't end up following them or whatever. And it's like, that's really weird to me. And I'm not necessarily afraid of it, but I really dislike it.
I think it's definitely becoming a more normal thing to do. It's like you almost I think many people almost expect people to know what they're up to because they posted about it on social media. It's like, wait, you didn't know I bought a new house? It's like, I don't keep up with you on social. How would I? Like, they expect you to say, like, them to be
because they set it to the internet, therefore you had access to the information tangentially.
Yeah. So it's almost more encouraged.
I mean,
But
it's definitely encouraged. Everybody,
in a weird
social
way.
media is a thing that is becoming, the internet sometime in the last 10 years became real life. It went from being a thing you do to being a thing you have to do almost, especially as a younger person.
How do you feel about, okay, you got your first smartphone at what age?
I got my first non-pay by the minute phone.
Like you can get on Facebook with and like that kind of stuff,
The first phone, because I used an iPod Touch for a long time with Wi-Fi only. I got my first actual phone when I was 22.
Dang.
A month before I turned 22.
Really?
Yeah, that's when I joined the cell plan with you. That's the first cell phone I had that wasn't a track phone.
Yeah.
And wasn't an iPod Touch that had a texting app on it.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like there's a lot that plays a lot into the views of social media. Because like if we grew up 10 years later than we did, be corrupted.
We'd be all over that. Because that's the default.
It's just the way it is.
If you're not that, you're a weirdo. You're a weirdo nerd who doesn't go on social media or whatever if you don't do it. Probably. I mean, I'm not a Zoomer, but they probably have.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
It's not Gen Z.
It's Gen Z.
Oh, Zoomers.
Gen Zs are Zoomers. It's the Z. Boomers be Zoomers.
Is that the derogatory term for Gen Z?
I assume they call themselves that. I know millennials call them Zoomers.
I hear Gen Z more often.
You don't spend enough time on social media.
I don't, I guess.
You're a boomer.
I think so. Okay. I don't know where we left off there, but did you?
Media,
okay. Where do we go next?
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff.
Let me reminisce one more time and see what you remember about this memory.
Okay.
I remember there was a. Okay, I'll transition. I'll segue out of social media with bullying. Bullying.
Bullying?
Bullying.
Bullying.
Cyberbullying.
Okay.
Like I feel like you kind of said the weirdo without social media. Like if that were the case, it's like, oh, why are you not there? Like you're weird. Like all that kind of stuff comes at you, and people can hassle you online.
Yeah, they call you an incel school shooter or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Next topic.
Okay.
I want to jump to the more stressful, heavier stuff, and then we can end with some positivity.
Okay.
Let's talk about the world.
Oh, my constant hell.
Let's talk about life in this world. I guess to hone it in really quick, I'm curious as to Cesar and what future looks like and what you would like to see for yourself in this world.
I don't know, I guess. To put it simply, it'd be self-employment. In what form that comes in is hard to say.
Okay.
Because like I said earlier, like at the very beginning, there's three basic things that I'm kind of chasing. That's podcasts, live streaming, and writing. And I don't know how to become a professional at any. Like I know the pathway for podcasting and live streaming. I don't really know how to become a professional writer because I still don't even know which form of writing that I would like to do. I don't know if I want to do screenwriting, like jumping to your field, if I want to like write novels or blogs. I'm just writing. I'm just practicing like getting my voice better in writing and stuff like that. It's like it's not. I wouldn't think it's very good at this point.
Sure.
But I'm just doing it.
So what are you writing right now?
I just I have my book somewhere around here where I just went online to writers.biz or whatever, and like here's 30 writing topics to practice. I just have them written down, and every few days I'll pick up the book and I'll be like, oh, this topic, I'll cross it out and write down like the numbers so that way if I want to reference it or whatever. 1 through 30, and then just write on that topic for a page or two or whatever, and then like just see what I get. Like, it's not very constructed or imaginative.
Yeah.
It's not in chasing anything particularly. I don't have a vision right now for any one aspect of that.
It's just getting comfortable with
Yeah, because for me, one of my strengths and weaknesses in working, whatever that would be, is that it takes me a long time to get used to the just doing it. But once I'm there, I'm very good at transitioning that skill into using it in different forms. You know, my last job as the dentist scientist, I had to use a CAD/CAM program I'd never heard of. It took me like 4 months to get used to the job, but it took me 6 months to master it. So in the 2 months after that, after I got used to just the basics of it, I was able to surpass the person that was teaching me, because that's just how I learn. It's slow up front and then nearly exponential for us, you know, until I reach whatever peaks that are limited in my brain.
I gotcha.
So I'm just trying to do that with writing.
Yeah, you're trying to get the 4 months out of the way, so that way you can kind of go from there.
Yeah, once I'm done with the basics, I'll be able to start, you know, jazzing it up and doing, you know, having somebody give me a topic, and then I can write on that with my voice and my perspective, and maybe it'll be good or maybe it won't.
Sure. But you can at least get started on stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just, for me, reading, because I've noticed in the last like 6 years of reading a lot less than before, my vocabulary has like shrunk a lot.
Yeah.
So just reading a lot more and reading stuff that I wouldn't normally delve into helps to not feel monotonous in my writing.
When did you jump back into reading? How recent was that?
Probably a year ago. I started reading more books, and then the pandemic hit, and I started reading a little bit more, more regularly at the very least.
Yeah. Nice.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've been reading more too, and I feel like it gives a lot of just seeing different styles and hearing the vocabulary and.
Yeah, and I would say, even if, like, one of the things that I did was I read the Twilight series in the mid-pandemic.
It's classic.
Because I realized at some point I have read most of the young adult fiction of, like, our teenage childhood years, but I had not... Did it stop again?
No, it's good.
Okay. But I had not read or watched the Twilight stuff. I was like, they didn't like it because it was terrible. Like, you know, there was all that toxic stuff that happened when it came out, and like, oh, just dumb girl stuff. And I was like, I'm going to read it and see what there... And there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's a lot of, you know, subterfuge that I didn't expect to be in the book, given that it's from a different perspective than like Harry Potter or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's interesting stuff in there that I wouldn't have known to even think about had I not, you know, exposed myself to that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I dig it.
Those books are okay. They're okay.
Now I'm a big fan. All right. So, a classic thing to talk about would be, we are currently, today's actually an interesting day.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons we're doing it today.
Today is November 3rd, 2020.
Yeah.
It's a day to remember. So, with that in mind, just going back a little bit to the start of COVID, because I've only primarily got to get the insights of people who work in the film industry, and it's kind of the same around for everybody, where production stopped for everybody, and it's just like, how did it stop for you?
Yeah.
And where's all the gigs are gone for all of us. But for you, I don't know how it played, because you mentioned furlough and all that kind of stuff.
For me, COVID started being a big deal in this area in mid-March. That's when it got to the point where it's like, oh, if there's people here getting it, we need to start taking precautions. We had to move our desks to get social distancing, stuff like that. And then one of my roommates has an autoimmune disorder and asthma. And I was like, hey, bosses, you said that we can voluntarily use all of our personal time, vacation time, to go home until the thing, and then we can take, voluntary time off or whatever, without pay. So I did that on March 23rd. And then at the end of that week, they furloughed the entire department because of the massive drop in work.
Right.
Because at the time, the American Dentists Association said that voluntary procedures shouldn't be done for the foreseeable future, emergencies only. And our product was voluntary in almost every way. So dentists were basically told by the supreme dentists of America, don't give them business.
Just don't do the thing that your job is based around. Yeah.
Yes. So even if I didn't voluntarily, I basically I left a week earlier than everybody else. That was basically it. And then 2 months into that, the very last day of March, they told us that we were laid off. We were not going to be coming back. My entire department.
You said 2 months later.
A month and a half or whatever. Okay. May to the end.
So May.
March to the end of May.
Okay.
Near end of March to the end of May. It's like a month and a half or whatever. But that's how that went for me. So the whole time, I kind of expected to be returning, so I just wasn't really doing anything. I was kind of exercising a little bit, but it was mostly just watching the news and watching the COVID numbers go up and doom scrolling and stuff. Hell yeah. So that's what a lot of it was. I did do I kind of started streaming early April just for fun, just to have something to do. But one of the things that I should have done earlier, but I didn't do for a long time, was just getting a new schedule, like having a routine. Like I was going to bed at like 7 a.m. Like I had completely lost control of my entire life for a lot of that.
Yeah.
But
okay,
that's how it went.
All right. So you mentioned, what'd you call it? Doom scrolling? Is that what you described it as?
Yeah, that's a common term.
I've never heard it before.
It's going on Twitter knowing that you're not going to have a fun time. You're just going to go
going
through
there for pain.
You're going there to see opinions you don't like, to see news you don't want to see, but you know is important.
Okay. And is that something that you've been consistently doing since then, or is that just kind of like a heat of the moment, early lockdown stuff?
Yes and no.
Like, what's the objective for you? Like, what are you looking for?
I'm trying to stay informed because, like, I stopped doing that for a little bit, and then, like, George Floyd happened.
Oh, right. And
it's like, I wanted to go out and protest, but, like, I can't justify it because COVID and my roommate is still at massive, because I couldn't live with myself if I found out he got COVID, and it might have been because I went to a protest, even though I know now that protests are not like a big spread event because everybody there generally wears a mask as long as you're not on the Trump side,
which is helpful.
It's outside. You can socially distance more easily because you can say, hey, I need to.
You can control yourself better.
Yes, and most people are wearing masks. I would be wearing a mask. But, like, I didn't want to risk it because if something happened to him, I wouldn't be able to. Yeah, because
it was still early enough where it's like we don't really know.
We didn't know everything about it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still don't know everything about it. But, like, that stuff still happens. So Philadelphia, like, a week ago. Like, I stayed up all night watching that stuff play out.
So how did it affect you is kind of my question, because you said in George Floyd happened. It made me feel
powerless because I wanted to help, but I couldn't. I couldn't even go out there and give my voice, so it made me feel even more powerless. I couldn't even be there to support. So I just donated my time and money online to try to help. And I started getting a lot of emails and texts that I didn't want to get.
Sure, but that's a great way to help.
I did what I could, but nothing feels like it's enough.
No, I feel like that's something, because again, my experience is primarily in the film world, and I follow a lot of actors on Instagram and stuff, and when everybody's out of work and everybody's just like looking for something to grab on and they feel powerless, like I know actors especially are really good at just taking something and running with it. So like they're really good advocators because they just, using their voice is kind of
because they're used to using their voice and having a platform in some regard, whether it's on set or being notable.
So I know like a lot of people were using social media as like their way to, like, they probably didn't know what to do, so like they're just sharing resources and kind of, there's a lot of like, I don't know. I feel like I remember a lot of people having the hate version of that, where it's like demeaning people for not seeing the same way as you.
That's never gonna go away, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that stuff was kind of annoying to me, but I do understand the feeling of like what.
Because I've had these arguments with some of my friends talking about like police reform or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I am I'm a person who wants to start from the beginning, tear it down, start over.
Yeah, rebuild.
But some of my friends are like, no, we got to do incremental change. I'm like, but it's too late. Mm-hmm. And like you'll have that argument, and some people online will take that to vitriol, where like you don't want to go fast enough, therefore you don't believe in this change at all. Is kind of how they
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, if you don't believe the same as me, then you don't believe at all.
Right.
And that's just kind of how it's always going to be, even on the same side of the topic. Where we both believe in police reform. If we don't believe the same, then it doesn't matter.
It's definitely I mean, I talked about this briefly with, very briefly with Michael on the podcast, where I kind of just listed a bunch of stuff that was going on in the world and how I was like, what do we do? Because there's just, that's kind of the issue that I see with social media and the internet is
it's false.
The world's a big place and we just have this thing that just sends us everything that happens in this huge globe.
Yeah.
And you don't really know.
Yeah, I had to stop looking at a lot of international stuff because like I have even less power over that because I don't know the language very well, so I have to trust people who are translating it, and I can't even go out and protest that in a way that people might like care about. I can't go help the Armenians in a way that matters.
Money.
Like all I can do, like all I have is money, and I don't even have much.
Yeah, and then it's definitely a. Okay, so being that I know that you've done a lot more digging on like being involved or staying in the loop on like I don't know what that's like.
What are you asking?
Or I'm asking,
what's it like to be constantly hip deep
I guess
politics?
I'm curious as to if you're still doing it or if what you've gotten out of it.
I'm trying to do it in a more regimented way, which means that I try to stop by like 9 p.m. so that way I don't...
Sure.
Because I don't know if it's unique to me, but when my heart rate is up, I can't fall asleep. Because I know some of my friends can fall asleep during horror movies that scare them, and I don't understand it at all. But like if I'm watching something that stresses me out, I can't sleep.
Okay.
So I need to stop earlier and then re-pick up in the morning if I need to. Because I can always just skim through it if I don't want to read every single thing that happens. But I do still keep up with it, and it is still stressful, but I do have better coping mechanisms because I'm trying to exercise more. I'm building a gym in a room that used to have a roommate in it, but he moved out.
Right.
So that'll be done in a couple weeks, and that'll help a lot.
Have you thought about, I feel like this is a thing that our parents have joked about for a long time. No, it's not even, okay. Have you thought about getting into politics?
Yeah,
and like
unfortunately.
Because our parents have always said, I think they've said it about both of us, being like, you guys would be great lawyers because you're great at arguing.
My dad keeps telling me, whenever I go and help him on a job or whatever, he's like, you should go do... Well, he's telling me to become an accountant now because he sees the accountant that they have making a lot of money doing really easy stuff. It's like, you could go do that. You could go, exploit all the loopholes and make a lot of money. Like, why would I want to do that? But... yeah, they've always kind of said in some way or another that you and I would be good at politics and art. Because all we do is argue at the dinner table. All it is arguing. So we have a natural, aspect of what the layman might think is what a lawyer does. When most of the time is them digging through documents and finding precedent and all that stuff in order to...
and I guess for context for people at home... That's one of the things that I was trying to talk about earlier, where it's like, I almost don't even know how to have, I mean, this is one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast, is like, how do I have a normal conversation with somebody because I'm so used to
just arguing at every point.
It's like, oh, you said that, actually, I think this, and actually this, and actually that. And like, Pops, we're going to prove you wrong today, and you're going to, like...
Yeah, but it's, Dad is a classic troll, where even once you prove him wrong, he will just start making things up in order to prove you wrong with things that aren't.
He's
It's
bad.
bad.
I think that's kind of why I understand Trump a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just the same techniques that way.
Yeah, only used on a global scale to prevent people from getting healthcare.
Correct.
Instead of our dad telling us that somebody was in the movie that we didn't think was there.
Yeah, but I guess the nice thing is we don't really, like, the lucky thing about our family is we don't really argue in the sense of
It doesn't get violent or
nobody
shouty.
really cares
Yeah,
about
it's all nothing.
Luckily.
Yeah, luckily. We got lucky in that way where none of us care enough. It's all about the fun.
'Cause I know,
even though mom has a horrible time every time.
Yeah, because I know there's plenty of people that, it's like the classic movie stuff where the family's so
matches.
big around the table and there's always the one person that has a radical view here. And this other person, like we don't have that. We just have dumb arguments where it's nothing.
We have dumb arguments for 40 minutes.
Okay, so you said, sorry, I was half listening.
Yes, I have thought about going into politics. Because I feel like, unfortunately, I might be, it might be important. It might be something that I could actually help the world with. Where, if I become, I don't know.
You start local.
You have to. You can't. I can't just. I'm not going to become the governor tomorrow. Like, no one knows who I am.
You got to work your way up.
You have to, in some form or fashion, work your way up. Whether it's I become an actor like the Governator, and then work my way into politics that way, or I start slow and build my way up, or become a lawyer and then a judge and then work my way into the system that way, or whatever. I feel like it's important that I am more politically active whether or not I become a politician, which is very sad.
What's sad about?
I don't want to become a politician. I don't want to spend 4 hours a day looking and thinking about stuff because that's just the nature of the world at this point.
Right. Because I guess the other issue with becoming a politician, I don't know why I'm air quoting that, but I guess I'm air quoting it because I was going to say that you're almost just more of a fundraiser, advocator you kind of get lost in that loop of I need money to run for the thing.
And that's the whole bad part about what politics is.
Yeah, it's about the money.
Because you spend, depending on what you're voted to, whether it's Senate or governor or local, you're spending about a year minimum fundraising for the next year. And if you're good at it, you're fundraising the entire time, and then you ramp it up.
Yeah, because at that point, what you're doing is
your job is fundraising, but you also do politics.
And then your opinions are based on the people that are giving the money. It's like, sweet, I'll give you the money if you're backing this and this. And you're like, I don't really believe in it, but I need the 100,000.
Yeah, that's why you do what I do. You're gonna have a very short political life. You're gonna take a bunch of money from all the crude oil companies, and then you're not gonna use it to help them.
Well,
and then you won't get voted in because you won't get any money next time.
What about? Sure. What about taking the I'll call it the don't vote for Royce Foyer method?
Okay.
Like,
because that's
where you're running just to be the opposition, so that way you have the opportunity to get a platform.
There are people that do
to combat the.
That's like
I don't know how productive
Andrew
it is.
Yang. That's how he did. He didn't run for president thinking he was going to win.
He just needed to
Yang
be heard.
wanted to bring out the UBI argument on a political stage, and it worked. It worked really well. Everybody now has an idea of what UBI is. People on both sides of the political spectrum in America think that it's a good idea in small numbers. A lot of people on the left think it's a really good idea because there's a lot of socialists there. And a lot of people on the right think it's a good idea because there's a lot of poor people there and they don't want to be struggling their entire lives, at a tire factory when they could just have the government subsidize a little bit of money to make them not have to work for rent. They can do something. They can go to school. They can go and become an actor because they're not stuck in their hometown because they don't think they can make money if they move, or they can't afford to move. But that's the Royce method is the same as Yang. Yang Gang is Royce. It's the same method.
It's kind of it's the attempt at keeping the system honest is what it is. Which is tough to do.
It's impossible.
It's impossible to do.
It's impossible to do. The system doesn't want to be honest because honesty doesn't pay.
All right. Well,
Oh, is it
so
too much of my political opinion?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to how, if I could, I'd just be interested to see how that would play out. It's kind of more of what I'm
Me going
thinking.
to like a political debate against
Yeah.
somebody who's diametrically opposed to me, and I just have to struggle not to call them dumb the entire time because their opinions are based on nothing.
'Cause the thing that I'm always interested in is once somebody gets in, like
Then
it feels
they-
like something changes at a certain point. Like you go in with these intentions.
Yeah, even our childhood friend Donald, when I
Yeah.
see him in person, it sounds like he's talking to me
He-
as a politician
he's different now?
and not my friend.
Shout out
But-
to Donald Abbott.
But it's hard to tell because I'm not around him very often if that's just how he talks now. If his normal voice is how I hear political speak.
I mean, that's his life. Yeah.
His entire life is doing that, so his mannerism might just be so different that it feels like he's pandering to me when that's just how he talks now. I can't know because I don't talk to him very often.
No, I thought about he's on my list to get on the podcast.
I wouldn't surprise me if you did it, but it's already too late for the election.
No, for sure. It'd have to be later on. But
come back in 2 years.
Because it would be interesting to see on if that's just like a default beginning conversation, like but then it breaks down the longer you get into it. Because it's like, oh, okay, I can be normal now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always think about what changes once you get into that kind of stuff, and like.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have to. If I became anything resembling a notable politician, I would have to learn how to speak more clearly because a lot of times in my normal speech, I fumble over words, I mumble a lot, my voice is too deep, people can't hear me, I'm too quiet, stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be tough. It's tough.
So
it's a big ask.
I would have to probably take like voice lessons, etiquette stuff.
And then it's
stop
almost
slouching.
It's almost like you're starting that job again for that first time when you have to learn to like your boss and have them like you because that's the way to win.
Yep.
Except with everybody.
Yeah. It's a
weird thing.
Politics is in a lot of ways a popularity contest. Okay. It's the reason that name recognition is so important. Even if they don't know who you are, what you stand for, if they recognize your name, they're more likely to vote for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know what to say about it. Like, today's the big day.
Yeah,
and I'm always upset with people. I hate the negative approach at things. Like, if you don't like Trump, don't promote him by having a We Hate Trump fundraiser to raise money for the opposition, because the face you're showing and the name you're platforming on your fundraiser, it's the classic like.
It's how it went in 2016. Everyone's like, Trump's a big old dummy.
So
we're never gonna stop talking about him because he's the only thing that's fun to talk about in this election, giving everybody the idea that Trump is important when he isn't, or shouldn't be.
It's like there's what's the term? Even bad press is good press, or no press is bad press.
All press is good press.
All press is good press. So that's kind of what I think about. It's like, oh, you're just putting the name in everybody's head, and the name recognition that you're talking about ends up winning, even though that's not what you're going for.
Yeah,
so don't use it. Talk about somebody else.
Yeah, because in 2016 the problem was all messaging around Clinton was negative, but they didn't call her Clinton; they called her Hillary, which brought a lot of misogyny out. And all stuff about Trump was bad, but nobody cared because, well, he's funny or whatever.
So being that this episode is going to drop a week after, I'm assuming that we'll know at that. But by the time this comes out, so I don't know.
We might not. There's going to be a lot of politicking
for sure.
There's going to be a lot of
ideally a week out we'll know. But,
hopefully.
So,
who knows?
Being that we're just a couple of normal dudes.
Sure.
How are you approaching it? How much of life is currently in the air right now? Because this crazy thing is happening in the world. I think, yeah.
I have the privilege of this not technically mattering to me, because I'm not one of the people that's at stake in this. So even if Trump gets elected, no one's coming for me, right? I'm not dark enough for the police to care.
You're a straight white male.
I can appear as a straight white male, no matter what. Like, if I don't go outside, I'll continue to be white. Like if I don't want anything to do with this election, it doesn't necessarily affect me in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
But it affects a lot of people around me, so it matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my life isn't up in the air. I'm not going to lose my job because I already did. I'm not going to lose a lot of money through taxes because I don't make enough money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of the basic talking points affect me directly in the immediacy. It affects me through...
It's just the world we live in and what you're seeing on your news.
Yeah,
stuff.
like I want to, make everybody's lives better as much as I can, which means reform the police, do whatever you can about the prison system, and then abolish ICE, and those are the 3 big points right now. And regardless of Trump or Biden, that's still both ways. You still have to accomplish those goals in some way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For me, because I don't know, we talked about this a little bit at dinner briefly, but just the overall stress of the world.
Oh, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I don't know, if you were to have a pie chart of why you're stressed,
it's more due to police violence than anything else, honestly.
Mm.
The Trump stuff is really annoying, but it's such a basic thing that it's not stressful. It's just frustrating. I don't get stressed by people believing that Trump's a good president. I just get so frustrated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt my heart. I'm just why do you think he's dealing with COVID well? He's doing the best he can, or whatever.
Did you watch the John Oliver?
Yeah, the last week tonight. It's yeah, but is that good enough? The answer is no. Look at New Zealand; they did a good job. We could have done aspects of that, but it doesn't matter because he's doing the best he can, and that's for some reason a positive aspect of him. But the politics stuff is frustrating, but not stressful for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything else. The violence, because it's so visceral.
Have you thought about joining the police force?
Why would I want to be a cop?
Well, you can, the whole leading by example.
I can be a good apple and get fired.
You can work your way, exactly. You can work your way up to police chief, sheriff.
I would love to spend the next 15 years of my life to do this thing.
And then you become, you really involve yourself in the community. You top down, hold people accountable, all that, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's a...
Yeah, no, I don't want to be a cop.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough job.
Sure.
But yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, something that crossed my mind is what avenues are there as far as making a difference is politics, being that cop that makes the right decision.
It's about knowing politicians and pressuring them to not vote for them until they pass this thing. So I'm going to go to Donald's house every day and chant in his front yard about how he needs to abolish the police or whatever. And then he totally has power over that because he's a city councilman.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it's one of those things where I feel like I shouldn't have to make my entire life about the police in order for them to be not horrible.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to sacrifice my next 20 years to make them better, then we're going too slow already. Even incremental change, my friend would argue to me, would take 10 years. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to become police chief in the next 10 years, even if I'm a perfect cop.
Right. I don't know. I don't know what to dive into here. Because, what are you thinking?
I don't know. Let's see what we got. In politics,
Sure.
do you have friends who have different political opinions of you, or like on the other side of the aisle? Because I know one friend that we have who tweeted something that I had a hard time not tweeting. He Facebooked something. I went on Facebook one time and saw that he posted, and I was really mad. It was when Trump got COVID. He said something on Facebook.
Oh, shucks. All right. Well, we're
like,
not going to say any names
no.
here. But I thought that was an interesting post.
I really wanted to respond, but I had to try really hard not to.
I thought about it too. But I don't... I guess ideally, what I try to live up to on myself is like, I like the idea of having people around me that have differing views. Because I feel like that, you kind of mentioned it too in terms of like where you get your news from, trying to find some sort of balanced, I don't know, some sort of, you don't just want to be
You don't want an echo
tunnel
chamber.
vision. Yeah, you don't want an echo chamber of just hearing stuff and being one of those people that you see is like, how do they think that? It's because they're in an echo chamber.
It's because they don't hear anything that's not that, so they think it's true because they hear it from everyone.
So I find it interesting when I do have somebody in my circle that thinks differently, and I'm like, oh.
Well, it's because they don't believe the same facts as I do.
The same facts.
Well, because if somebody tells you that Trump is fascist, what is your opinion of that? Do you think that is true? And if you don't, what's it based on?
So the funny thing to me is I kind of like how you said, what did you say earlier? That you purposely stay bad at social media.
Yes.
I purposely stay bad in politics. Like, I'm like, what does fascist mean? Like,
yeah, and that's what a lot of people say because, like, a lot of the right-wing talking points about when people bring up fascism is that they'll say Trump isn't a late-stage Nazi. He's not Hitler at the thing with all the people and, Kristallnacht. Like, that's not happening, so therefore he's not fascist, when fascism is a lot of things that you do that build up to that. Fascism isn't being Hitler, it's getting to be Hitler. So a lot of people that I see who argue against fascism say that, well, we're not Nazi Germany, so therefore he's not that bad, when that's not what that means.
And it's tough to make that comparison in the first place, too.
Yes, a little bit, kind of. There's like secret police and people getting kidnapped on
the
the street.
No, I just mean that it's like, why are you using that as your barometer in the first place? It's like,
because that's what everybody looks at. Fascism is what Hitler is. They don't look at Mussolini. They don't look at Stalin. They look at Hitler. He's the yardstick for what it is. The worst of the worst. So if you're not that, then you're not it at all.
I don't know, but I to answer your question about friends, I feel like my closest experience with that kind of interaction is more involves on the early sets that I got to be on post or during COVID. It's almost like you can just see America being shrunk down and like, this is our set.
Yeah, microcosm.
And yeah, it's a microcosm of, all right, you can tell these guys are anti-mask. These guys are pro-mask. Here's the world. They're putting up a fight. I'm putting this on. These people are doing the best they can and care. Like,
but like, you can't argue with them about why masks are good because they don't believe in what's real. Their facts are based on nothing. Well, and you can't prove that to them because they don't. Their belief system is being touted as true. Belief and truth are the same thing to a lot of people. And that's how, you get bad things to happen.
Or it's even just like, okay, like one example that I've been thinking about is I have noticed there's a lot of smokers on film sets.
Okay.
There's sometimes more smokers
than non-smokers.
The heavy smokers care less about health, which makes sense. Because they're heavy smokers.
Yeah,
so
it's the nature, yeah. So
when you talk about COVID being a health risk, you're like, well, I'm already smoking 2 packs a day. What do you mean? I'm already killing... Like, it's kind of like, what's that on top of this? Like, I'm already... And then there's the talk of, like, secondhand smoke is bad, so don't smoke because you're hurting others. It doesn't stop them from smoking. Why would it stop them from the mask thing too.
Well, it's about empathy.
Right. I'm just saying. But they fight so much already.
Well, it's like, I'm not telling you that you can't smoke. I'm just saying, could you not smoke in my face?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, well, I'm already smoking, so what do I care about you? And
So
that's not an argument.
So you walk away if you want to. Yeah.
And then I have to take action to protect myself because they refuse to even give up any aspect of comfort in order to help me. Yeah, it's the same argument. I'm not asking you to stop smoking. I'm just asking you to not smoke into my own lungs.
All right. So let me try to spin up. Try to go more positive here somehow.
Okay.
It's easy to devolve into the world is a no-win scenario kind of thought.
Oh,
but yeah. If you were, okay, what is a, this could come out negative too.
Okay.
But what are you hoping for? What's keeping Cesar, like what gets you back into a positive? Like, is it the news of discovering water on the moon? Is that kind of cool? And you're like, all right, there's hope. There's hope.
Really.
We can colonize on the moon. We can extract the hydrogen.
We don't need water from the moon. We're not running out of water.
No, I'm saying when you have a base on the moon, you don't need to export from Earth. You can actually just
You can take it from the surface to have it as a permanent base.
And
yeah.
you can create oxygen and your hydrogen fuel. Like
basically, since Trump got elected, space travel has become a non-topic to me because it becomes like the movie Elysium, where it's like, oh, only the rich people get to not have to live on a hellscape or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, why don't we just not destroy our own Earth or whatever?
Mm-hmm. And then there's the news of, again, this is like, I feel like it's all Musk stuff.
Yeah, and then he's like, we're not going to follow laws. There's no Earth laws will matter on Mars or whatever.
No Earth laws. I'm not familiar with that speech.
Well, he tweeted something about how when we get to Mars, he's not going to enforce Earth laws there or whatever. And then I only saw that because somebody did a retweet and they put a picture of him next to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand person or whatever, implying that Musk is he wants to have sex with underage people or whatever. But yeah, I don't think about intergalactic or interstellar or interplanetary travel almost at all anymore because it's not. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter as much as maybe maybe stopping Coca-Cola from poisoning all the water on Earth or whatever.
Yeah.
Or holding them to account for lying about recycling and stuff like that.
Yeah. What about? Well, I was gonna say about the other Musk stuff, Elon Musk and his
constant lies about what he's gonna do with his resources. Yes.
His the worldwide Wi-Fi that he's trying to get up there.
Yeah, because he wants to ruin telescopes from ground level, which is what satellites do.
What does it do?
They've already shown that a lot of SpaceX stuff, because when you're trying to
ruin telescopes, is that what you said?
Yeah, if you have a telescope on top of a mountain and you're trying to take a long exposure picture of outer space, these satellites just fly by in front of your telescope and ruin the exposure because they're creating these lines across it. Right. And SpaceX is making that a lot worse by putting more and more things into space.
Because they're launching a bunch of satellites for this world Wi-Fi or
world
whatever.
Wi-Fi because he wants to become, the Nikola Tesla of
That'd be
modern
cool.
age.
I like the idea of.
It's not a bad idea, but you could also just
I don't know how else you would do it.
Do it the way that the rest of the world has done it. You don't need Wi-Fi everywhere.
Right. You're just on the ocean somewhere. You're like, ooh, I've still got a signal.
It's like I don't need to see everything at all times, no matter what.
Well, because
it's a good idea. It's Tesla's original idea of putting a big place that universal wireless electricity. That's a good idea, but you don't need to use satellites for that. You can figure it another way. You don't need Wi-Fi in the middle of the savannah during a safari. You don't need it on your hike at the top of
All right. So if those things don't cheer you up, then what cheers you up these days? Is it the news of
news doesn't cheer me up.
No, the news of I know you don't keep up with the Smash Brothers character announcements. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, my friends post about that, so I hear about it, but I don't keep up with it specifically.
or Marvel news. I know Marvel
care
news
about
has
Marvel.
been what was the word I was gonna say? Has been exciting for me, like the whole multiverse thing that they're gonna try
I
to
have
pull
no idea.
off.
I don't care about Marvel.
Oh, it's so cool.
I still think that they should have ended. Infinity War should have been the last movie they did. That would have been a bold
see that
decision.
now.
Yeah, because I think it's a more interesting idea to have your heroes lose at some point than to constantly win, and then have happy. I don't know. It just
Sure.
when your heroes never lose, there's no stakes.
I've heard
there's no
that
tension.
before too. I've heard plenty of people say like that's a good ending there. Call it good.
Yeah, like
Thanos wins.
I was a decent fan of Marvel for a while, and then Civil War really made me dislike a lot of it because it wasn't even what it was supposed to be. It wasn't an argument against anything. They told you who's right. There's no real nuance there. They don't even present it as being two different sides, and you get to choose like, oh, am I Iron Man or am I Captain America? It's like you're always Captain America. It's his point of view the whole time. He's the one who's right because you see what he says, and it makes more sense because you don't have a counter argument.
You have Iron Man. He says sign the papers. And
Yeah, he
Cap
says it in the
don't.
first 10 minutes, and then it's Captain America the whole rest of the movie.
But then Iron Man says, I want to punch you in your teeth.
Yeah. It's like I have Captain America, the nicest man in the world, telling me what he believes. It's like, oh, it sounds reasonable. And then you have Iron Man being an unrepentant asshole the whole time. I wonder who you want to believe.
No, for sure. I mean, it's Cap's movie, so
It's Captain America's movie. There's no nuance in it. And the bad guy shouldn't have even really been a bad guy because he was just mad that his family died in a tragedy caused by the Avengers.
Sure. But anyway, the multiverse seems cool.
I don't know.
I
have no real plan of watching those movies going forward.
I just imagine you years down the road, you're gonna be like, I'm glad they continued.
Yeah, sure.
Because I just got to see Tobey Maguire, and
that'll be kind of funny. But like, I heard about that, but I don't even know if that's real news because somebody could have made that up, and I just saw it. I have no idea.
There's been conflicting news stories on it, but I still like the idea
of all the older Spider-Men coming together.
Well, because the rumor right now. The rumor right now is that you have Andrew Garfield, you have Tobey Maguire, then you have the Sinister Six multiverse version.
I don't know what that means.
So you'd have Electro from Andrew Garfield's movie. You'd have like Green Goblin from whatever movie.
You have James Franco in there too.
And you'd have the newer villains too. You'd have James Franco. I don't know. I hope not.
Why not?
I don't know. That'd be weird.
And Tobey Maguire's normal?
No, I guess I wasn't a fan of James Franco's arc in.
Well, what are they going to do? Bring Willem Dafoe back?
That'd be cool.
Is the original Green Goblin?
Give him a new costume, upgrade it. It'd be sweet.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, I don't like it. The things that make me happy these days are just what I would call like mindless, fun entertainment stuff.
Video games?
Video games, playing video games with my friends. Because I don't, honestly, in the last like 6 years or whatever, playing video games by myself hasn't been nearly as fun. Like the only times I have like quote unquote fun is like Dark Souls, which is not a fun experience, but it is a rewarding experience because you feel like you get better at the game, and that's rewarding in and of itself. But it's just playing Apex, Rocket League with my friends, playing Among Us as the memers that we are or whatever. But like, it's just watching like Red Letter Media. It's watching, these people just talk about stuff and it's fun and they're funny. That's I just trying to have a funny time that I don't have to think about politics for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the fun comes in. I don't have to, because honestly, during the pandemic, Red Letter Media has been a really nice, place to go because they do movie reviews. I don't know if you know who they are. They do a lot of movie reviews. They did the original. They kind of innovated the YouTube video essay on movie stuff back in the day when they
Red Letter Media,
when they destroyed the Star Wars prequels with like reviews that are longer than the movies. But like they have a huge backlog, and they're like 30 minutes to an hour and a half, and they're funny guys and they have good insights and stuff. So I watch them to just think about something else.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. Like that's, I guess, similar to what I do. Is I had my routine where I would play Animal Crossing. I guess mine are more solo experiences because you have the nice foundation of the years of gaming with your dudes anyway. me, it's like either Smash Brothers Online and burn hours with that, trying to get into Elite Smash, or I was playing Animal Crossing for a lot of the time in the beginning when that first came out. And then the books, the reading helps too. Because I like the books a lot too, because it gets you away from a screen altogether. The way that I read, I don't know if you do physical books or not.
Yeah, I prefer that.
Yeah, because like otherwise it's like your phone or your laptop, you're always staring at a screen. So
yeah.
But yeah, reading, exercise.
Exercise has been good. It's YouTube, occasional shows. I've been getting a lot more into watching like football talk because it's more mindless, not politics.
Yeah, it's like stuff that doesn't matter, politics.
Until Stephen A starts yelling about stuff. It's not super common, but he'll occasionally go on a diatribe about racial politics. And it's like, I wanted to watch this for not this.
Yeah.
But other than that kind of stuff.
He'll turn the story of like, wait, Bill Belichick said this thing about Cam Newton, but he never said that about Tom Brady. Why didn't he give him props when he got a victory?
I haven't seen those.
And then he turns it into a racial thing when really it's about coaching styles. When Tom Brady does better when he doesn't feel like he's being appreciated and he's not good enough. When Cam Newton needs, like, you're great, dude, keep it up. Like, they're just different. But he turned that story into like a racial thing.
I don't know, maybe. But it's hard to know because there's a lot of racial stuff in the NFL. Like Kaepernick and his whole never returning to the NFL.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Kaepernick's from Nevada. Oh, he went to school at Nevada. And he was on campus with me when I was going there.
Well, he left when I started.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting that he became a name.
He went to a Super Bowl.
He did well.
And then
for that stint.
Stood up for the rights of his people or whatever, and got kicked out of the NFL forever.
It's a bummer.
Yep, that's what everything turns to. A bummer.
It's a bummer.
It's a bad time.
All right, mister. We still got 40 minutes here. Mm-hmm. What do we got?
Speaking of bummers.
Oh, no.
How are you dealing with your receding hairline? Because, like, my hairline is receding. It's not quite as fast as yours, but it is going away, and I'm very self-conscious about it.
Me, I've entered the final phase.
The long hair.
The long hair.
The Jared Leto.
I was talking to Mom about this earlier today. Mm-hmm. I was like, the plan right now, I guess for me, I feel like I've never had a proper hairline anyway. Like,
you've always had a big forehead.
Yeah, like, it's always been a high forehead, and I've always had like the little arches or whatever they're called.
Some kind of widow's peak.
The double peak. So for right now, what I do is I'm like, all right, like the man bun is a good final phase, and it kind of works with like just getting the hair back and embracing the line. And then I'm like, I'll ride that out for a couple of years, and then buzz it, and then kind of do the shaved head look. That's kind of my plan right now. But I guess I don't know. Like I'm more self-conscious about it when the hair's down. When it's up and tied, or if it's short, it's cool. But once it gets long enough where this thing is like trying to like, I don't know what to do with this front part. Mm-hmm. Like, it's annoying. But I don't know. I think there's it's the same as anything else. It's like, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a choice. I didn't make a decision on when this would go or what hairline I got.
You're not going to use your Hollywood millions to invest in a new hairline?
And so it's more about, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. Just embrace it, and you're just happier than fighting it. But you mentioned that you're having a...
Yeah, my hairline's slowly receding. And I think I'm the only one in my group of friends that has a receding hairline right now. I think everybody else is pretty consistent. Which makes me feel like I'm even older, because I'm the second oldest person in my group of friends as it is.
So you have yet to come to terms with the inevitable path.
Well, yes and no, but it's like... I'm still thinking, like, could I slow it down? Because I get all those ads on podcasts and stuff. Like, take these pills and it'll...
I think Philly D does even some of those, yeah.
your hairline will stop receding or it'll come back or whatever. I'm like, should I take those? Is that a scam?
They've never had a cure for.
Because I know that if you want to have a scam, one of the things that you can make the most money on is tricking guys into thinking that their hairline will stop receding or that their hair will come back by selling them pills because they don't know the science. And it's just a get rich quick scheme if you want to do that. You can get some brain
Right.
pills.
I mean, it's because it's not a thing. If it were a thing.
Because as far as I'm aware, you have to go the Elon Musk route and get some kind of surgery. Well, I don't know what he did specifically, but he in the the late 90s when he did what's that called, PayPal, when he made PayPal, you can see pictures of him and his hairline's kind of like yours. It's just receding and it's thin in the front, and then you look at him now and it's full and solid and stuff. He did something. I don't know what it was, but he did something to fix his hair.
I mean, rumor has it you can like just take patches.
Yeah, you take hair from somewhere else and replant it.
And replant it, and it's kind of like good deal. But I don't know what the most efficient way of doing it is.
Yeah, time to look into it.
But no, I prefer to just
you don't want to have a pic next week where you have a complete hairline.
Embrace nature, because I've seen some like people that I know try to fight it.
Mm-hmm. I've just been wearing a lot of hats because I'm self-conscious. In
their mid-20s, and they have like you can't even they're wearing the hat because they're still recovering from the surgery or whatever. And then I see them later. I'm like, you look the same that you did before. What did you do? Are you don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's no fix.
I was just curious how you were dealing with that, because I am still struggling a little bit with the idea of looking like a horrible old person sometime.
I think one of the Facebook ads or something that I got recently was like, or I was on YouTube recommended, and it was like, I don't know, 10 examples of dudes that look better clean shaven than with their hair.
Sure.
And they just had like the transformational pics of like, oh, that guy looks super confident now and he's clean shaven versus him trying to make that hair work. But of course, it's always like the crappy photo, and
it's always people that have like a nice shaped head or whatever.
And he's in a bummed mood, and then you see him now smiling.
He's smiling with a shaved head, yeah.
I'm like, sometimes they actually do look. I'm like that. He's pulling it off.
Yeah, it's oftentimes I would say it's better if you're at the stage where you're doing comb overs or whatever to hide that you don't have hair on top of your head. That you're probably better just embracing it than trying to hide it. But like, I don't know. I'm not at that stage yet. I don't know how close. I don't know when I'm going to get to your level or. Be like, I don't know what level of hair loss I'm destined for. I don't know if I can be like Dad, where he still has his hair just kind of thin, or if it's yours going to kind of just go back and back for a long time and maybe go away completely. Who knows?
I haven't had the this part start yet, as far as I can tell. The back is still super thick, which is the annoying part too, because I'm like. Yeah, you can't just keep the hair if the back is thick. Like you're
getting the toilet bowl look, yeah.
Yeah, like that hasn't happened yet. I'm like, this at some point this is gonna thin and connect.
Mm-hmm. Those two lobes.
And once that, I'll just go for the clean shave and embrace that as part of my morning routine, right? Where I guess I'm just
razor your head every day.
Yeah, gotta keep that consistent.
Keep the beard.
Yeah, for sure. And then get this down so I can start tightening this down.
Oh God! Get the long goatee.
Yeah.
What do I got over here? I don't have much left.
Let's talk about traveling.
Okay.
And dreams.
Me and my group of friends, we had initially planned on going to Japan in 2020. We had that goal in 2018. And then one of our friends was in law school and he wasn't going to finish until last semester. He finished. He passed the bar exam like about a month ago. So he's now a lawyer and he can start making money to save money to go to Japan. So we went from Japan 2020 to Japan 2021, and now we're like Japan 2021 if we can. Because who knows what state of the world's going to be in.
I feel like it's possible.
Because like America has done nothing about COVID. We're re-spiking now. We have this last week was the most cases in ever in the world, in America.
Yeah, in a single country,
in a single country, in a single week, we got the most cases on record. So who knows when it's going to go away.
You said Japan?
Yeah. We're going to go to Japan for 2 weeks. I think one of them can go for a month.
Was there a particular season you were aiming for, or is that still kind of like flexible?
We were going for not when the Olympics happening. So there's a little bit of a fight between like spring, the transition between spring and summer, and then like the fall winter time. Because if you want to go, we can go spring. If we want to go hike, I just forgot the name of the mountain. Is that
Kilimanjaro?
No, it's not. That's not Japan. There's a big mountain in Japan that I just forgot the name of somehow.
Fuji?
It's Fuji, that's the one. Yeah.
Got lucky.
If you want to go, Mount Fuji's open for hiking 2 weeks a year. So we would go sometime during that so we can go hike Mount Fuji. Or we'd go later in the year because no one ever goes during the wintertime to Japan, and that would be interesting. But other than that, like, just not during the Olympics.
Yeah, I guess in the end, it's probably a win-win scenario, right?
Yeah,
you're there, and the cities are there regardless of what time you go.
Yeah, and it's food, and it's getting the experiences and seeing the hikes and going to the shrines and seeing the culture and trying to learn how to speak it a little bit so you can go and maybe talk to somebody. I took Japanese for a few years. I took Japan.
You took Japanese for a couple of years?
I took Japanese for 3 years in high school and 2 years in college.
Okay.
And I don't know most of it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's all in there. It's just the way that my brain does language is that Spanish is also in that same section too, so it's confusing.
Yeah. So why Japan?
Because my friends are all weebs.
What's a weeb?
A weeaboo, so somebody who is a big, a nerd for anime.
Okay.
Is a common way for a weeaboo to be.
Is that like? It's not somebody who wishes they were born Japanese, right? That's a different thing.
That's like a subset. That's like an extreme version of it. But they are all much bigger fans of Asian media than I am.
It's more, the culture.
They watch more anime than I do. They consume more manga than I ever have. Like I didn't take everybody who took Japanese in high school was anime.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that wasn't really. I didn't take Japanese because I really want to listen to it without American voices or whatever. Like I took it because it wasn't Spanish, and Spanish was ruined for me in middle school. Yeah. And it wasn't French, which you took, and I had no interest in.
Yeah. Japanese is cooler.
At our high school, when I was going there, I could have taken Paiute, which maybe I should have.
Ooh.
But
where could we take that?
At our high school, they offered Paiute.
No, they didn't.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember.
It was next to the Japanese room.
No.
Ah. You could have taken Paiute. I think they only did 2 years because that's much as whatever. That's
but crazy.
I took Japanese because it wasn't Spanish, it wasn't French, and I wanted to get an honors diploma, so I needed to take a foreign language. So I took that, and it was fun. Ended up liking it. It was an interesting thing. I learned a lot about, a new culture because. Growing up, a lot of my friends were of some kind of Latinx descent, so I got to see a lot of that growing up. So it wasn't new to me taking Spanish,
right? And
then, there's only
something different.
It was just new.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Yeah,
but they want to go to Japan because the reason anybody would want to go to Japan, it's an interesting place. And they have things that are there that they want to see and experience.
Did you take Japanese with any of them? Were they a part of?
I saw a couple of them. One of them took Japanese separately because they didn't start freshman year of high school. So they were a year later than us. I took it with one of them directly. And that's it. The rest of them, a couple of them are teaching themselves Japanese right now, but everybody just...
So do you guys ever practice together?
No. That we were supposed to. We scheduled times to do it, and then the person who scheduled it is never available during those times.
And you don't want to do it just 3 instead of 4?
Well, it'd be 1 instead of 2.
1 instead of 2. Gotcha.
So it's like... It didn't work out.
Yeah, because I think Japanese would be super... of course...
It's not a very complicated language, honestly.
No, I mean, just the country in general.
It's a neat place.
I think it's... Because, of course, I landed in Japan once and transferred planes. And so I just remember flying over it was super cool. I'm like, dang, that looks like a different country. That's Japan.
Weird.
So it's like cool that like, and I think it's just cool in general.
Yeah,
And then I like the idea. I guess my nerd brain just goes to like the Pokemon centers that they have there. It's always been that'd be like something I want to check out, but I don't know. There's lots of cool stuff there.
Yeah. There's the hot springs. There's the mountain. There's
Have
suicide forest. There's the cities. There's the parties. There's the DJs.
There's the drifting.
You have the drift culture if you know where to go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there that we don't have much access to. And then there's, all the stereotypical stuff and all the cultural stuff. For me, it's more having my first international experience. Because Japan doesn't have like that huge draw. Like no place really does, honestly, for me. Where I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to go. It's just like, oh, I've studied Japanese, and I don't think it's a dumb place.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm not drawn to it any more than like Greece or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can see the Parthenon.
For sure. No, I guess we see traveling very similarly. Because I
would like to experience the world, but like I don't have specific goals for it.
Yeah. So it sounds like that's kind of what happened is like your friends were like, oh, we want to go to Japan. And you're like, I'm down for that. That sounds cool.
Basically.
So if somebody else was like, if they were like, oh, let's go to Egypt and check out this, you're like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool.
Okay.
Like,
that's more or less how it would go.
Yeah, that's my same.
It's tourism. I don't have to. It's not like we're going on a trip to volunteer our time to build a hospital or whatever. We're going there just to eat food and see what's around. Mostly, I mean, that's what a lot of traveling is just experience new food.
Experience new food, see some history. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Japan's been around for a while.
A little bit. A little bit.
Okay. I thought I had a follow-up for that, but I lost it. Oh, I remember. Have you thought about moving?
Yeah. Where to? I don't know.
I think PewDiePie moved to Japan, didn't he?
I don't know.
I think he lives in Japan now. Maybe not.
Last I heard he lived in England. I don't really watch his stuff, so I'm not really sure. I have thought about moving a lot, but it's complicated.
Because you don't have like a passport or anything to even...
No.
Yeah.
I don't have a passport right now. I need to get one.
Get it.
I need to get one. Because I'm going to need it to travel even within the States on a plane, because I don't have my real ID either.
You can use normal ID on a plane.
Yeah, but you have to have a passport.
No. I've tried. I mean, I've been flying around.
Because they pass it. I don't know when it starts, but you need a passport or a real ID to travel interstate.
It's probably when the normal IDs expire. So like, there's real IDs are going to be the only IDs, and at that point, it'll probably be that.
Yes, that's what it will be.
But you'll travel before then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said it's complicated.
Well, because it's like how I imagine most people when they're figuring out what they want to do with their lives, and they don't want to move away from their family. Because my friends are in a lot of ways an aspect of my family.
For sure.
Like you don't have a group of friends that stays the same for 10 years without them being like really important to you. So moving away would mean sacrificing a lot of that. Granted that even before COVID times, we had to schedule stuff to hang out because it stopped being a thing that we did automatically. So for the most part, and like one of our friends lives somewhere else in the United States, and he still hangs out with us online a lot. So I know that I could make it work, but it's also not having a really great excuse to move either. It's not like I'm moving for work or to save money on rent or whatever. It's like I'd be moving to move.
It'd be for you.
Yeah, but like why? I don't have a reason yet. I'm not self-sufficient to the point where I can afford rent on my own in most places. I can't afford a house. It's not like I'd be moving somewhere to buy a cheaper house. Like I don't have an excuse for myself to move yet. And the place that I would want to go are places that have like good internet and a lot of stuff to do, which means it's going to be expensive to live there too.
Sure. Because I guess, if anything, it's almost like now is a great time to move. Because, okay, like, I've thought about it in terms of my script supervisor life down in LA, where it's like production was halted for X amount of time, stuff's ramping back up, and you almost have to like regrow your network to get work again. So now is a good time to transition to union status, because now at least if I'm going to rebuild, I might as well rebuild in the higher echelon. So I feel like it's a similar thing where it's like I'm in limbo, might as well, instead of rebuilding right now and figuring out life in Reno, I could do the same thing somewhere else and just rebuild there.
Well, yes and no. Because, like...
Minus the...
Let me ask you this. Why didn't you move to LA sooner? Why didn't you move to LA straight out of college when you knew you wanted to do film as your career, even though you didn't know exactly what aspect of it you wanted to be?
Yeah, I knew... It was... Okay, yeah, for me it was...
Because you stayed in Reno to do film stuff.
It was an experience factor, is what it was for me. Is I understood, and I'm glad I stayed back, for sure. Because I cancel out the acting thing right away. It's like, all right, sweet, acting, no.
Yeah.
No acting. So if I would have went down there with trying to be an actor first, that would have been torture.
Yes.
So at least getting the initial experience of... It's just the confidence thing, is having the experience, going down there with the skill to add to, like being able to add to a project versus needing to learn on somebody else's dime or whatever. I mean, that's why I waited, was I felt like I needed the experience and go down there as an asset from the get-go, and that's my best opportunity.
Yeah, because for me, the reason that I would move is because I'm self-employed in a way that I'm comfortable, and I know I can afford where I'm going. So why move to a place where I have to spend another $1,000 per month on rent to continue to learn how to do my self-employment when I could stay here and do that? And once I become sustainable to that level, I can go live wherever I want.
Well, you said the key word. Comfortable.
Yeah. If I don't want to spend 90% of my money on rent and have to scrounge around for ramen in order to survive because I want to be a live streamer and that's all I make,
sure,
I could live here and have it be, I can have savings, I can build more, I can invest in equipment, or I can go move to LA and have a single bedroom apartment for twice as much as I pay now.
Right.
And, my mic breaks and I have to take out a loan to get it because I don't have any savings to spend it all. Like that's like the difference. Is like the comfort. I can sell my cars, I can buy cheaper, more fuel efficient or whatever. But like once I reach the point where I feel like my career is actually growing, if I decide to go all in on live streaming specifically, once I reach the point where like I make money now, then I might be able to decide I'm going to start. I'll sell my cars, get a Civic or whatever, and then live somewhere where I think is more interesting.
Almost like a more minimal. You'd
simplify
and then
simplify life and then maximize work
and then move.
And then move somewhere.
I could see that. Yeah.
Better for my mental health or more interesting to be around or whatever. Whether I move to Seattle or New York or
yeah, because I mean that's the cool thing about that path is
because that's why I want to do it, because if I live stream for a living, I can do it anywhere. Correct. If I have good enough internet, it can be anywhere. I don't have to live in a place that has I don't have to move to LA specifically in order to become a professional live streamer. I don't have to.
I recommend not moving to LA for anything
besides working in Hollywood. Yeah.
There's no reason to be down there.
Yeah.
It's torture. Yeah.
So that's why I'm not planning on moving anytime soon, because I don't expect to become, a professional self-employed person within the next year. But after that,
I guess. So I guess for now, now is a good time to
invest in doing that stuff.
Well, invest in doing that stuff and just do the travel to places like you're already planning on doing, and then be like, oh, I could. Ideally, then you have that minimal experience.
Yeah, you can do road trips through places and see what's around.
And then you'd be like, oh, cool, I could see myself living here. Like this would be kind of.
I can't wait to go live in Missoula.
Whoa. I was thinking more Japan, but
can't travel to Japan right now.
No, I'm saying in the future.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So how for living for you? Do you think you could make it work if you didn't live in LA?
Make what work? Life?
Your career goals?
No.
You would say that being in LA is basically completely correlated with your ability to become more successful?
I feel like it is, yes. Because I've definitely thought about during that crazy lockdown, 3 months of lockdown that I was under down there. I did think about, could I do this somewhere else? Let's say like New Mexico. I'm like, I know there's film out in New Mexico. Could I be in Albuquerque?
After Breaking Bad, they really brought it in.
Like, could I be out there? And I have family there. I have different family there. That
you have some resources.
There's some roots there, and who knows how that would play. But I'm like, all right, is that a possibility? Maybe Georgia's a possibility. Could I do the same thing there? Would it be cheaper? I don't know. Like I was kind of thinking about the same thing I told you. It's like if I'm going to rebuild, then I have other options. But I feel like there's too many people and too much centralization in LA where it's the best opportunity for me to just interact with the people I need to interact with and kind of grow. I don't know. It's just I don't feel like the opportunity is as wide open as anywhere else.
Well, how often do you get more opportunities in person rather than like over email or whatever else you would use?
Well, I mean, the fact that I get the opportunities at all is because I'm down there. That's the only reason I'm getting the stuff. But like, that's the tough thing too. Is like, to bring up another guest, Michael G. Gable.
Okay.
Model actor. He, being that things have kind of changed now, where you're not really doing the in-person auditions for him specifically. He's able to just audition from anywhere and get gigs and then line up a gig, and he only has to go into town for the gig. Like he doesn't have to pay the rent there. He can just show up. I don't know. So I feel like it'd be kind of similar to me to that too. It's like if people think I live down there, or I don't know how it would work, but I don't know. Technically,
because your skill set's a little bit different. Because you don't do like writing or acting. You're like a behind the camera kind of person who's working your way to director. Yeah. So as a script supervisor, do you think you wouldn't be able to get as much work if you lived 4 hours away rather than however long it takes you to get there now?
Yeah. Yes. I feel like as a script supervisor and as a director, it's just the convenience of being in the city opens up way more opportunity for me right now. Because I've only been there 2 years, and maybe my outlook will change as we get deeper in this post-COVID world. I'm like, all right, how are jobs coming in now? Where are the jobs? But I don't know. The answer is like LA is where I need to be right now. I want to make this work. And then next year is I'm gonna push harder on the directing too. Like I have yet to, as of this episode, I have yet to be hired on and paid as a director.
Because I know you did that one. You directed because the director didn't show up or something.
Oh yeah.
For some video.
It was when I was I think I was the assistant director for Smosh,
Mm-hmm.
and the director was flying in that morning, but his stuff was delayed. He was going to be late, so I directed the first scene.
Mm-hmm.
Just that was kind of scary because it was my first time assistant directing for them, and I was like wanting to do a good job, and then that's thrown on me at the last second too. And I'm like, this is day one. You're making me do both. I would have like aced it if I knew I was going to be directing today, but it was kind of. Yeah, but that's my only experience. And I didn't get paid as a director on that. It was just I filled in for like half an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the next push.
Yeah, good luck on that. I hear it's hard.
It's definitely difficult, but we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely happy in the script supervisor chair, assisting directors and seeing their visions through and almost learning from the shadow perspective of like, all right, they're making this decision in these circumstances. I can think in my director brain without the pressure of making the decision.
Mm-hmm. What you would have done or whatever.
It's a nice training ground for now. But yeah, so whatever you take of that for your endeavors.
I don't know. Because, I mean, none of the things that I want to do necessarily are surrounded by any particular place. The only thing I could say is that if I wanted to pursue screenwriting in any way, one of the dream jobs would be to write for one of the seasons of Rick and Morty, since they already passed 10 of them. And I think they're making the 5th one now because the 4th one just came out on Blu-ray. But, like, so if I start writing really hard and I get really funny, I might be able to get a Rick and Morty job right before it ends, given that it ends at 10 and it doesn't become the next Simpsons or whatever.
I mean, it sounds a lot like.
So, like, I don't know how to pursue that. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to get attention. Like, I don't know any of that. I don't know how to get into the industry.
Yeah, it sounds like to me what that would be is, like you said, you write funny stuff.
You just write funny
and
stuff.
you get it produced. So that way the Rick and Morty dudes stumble upon it, or it gets sent to them, and it's like, oh my gosh, that thing's funny.
Or when they're looking for new writers or whatever, my name comes up in some form or fashion.
That's the.
Because, like, I mean, that's what everybody says, especially in the film industry. It's like you just need to do the work to be ready for the opportunity. Because it's a lot of luck, but you have to be ready when opportunity strikes.
Because I told you about my Kevin Feige experience.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with me. Like, I want to direct a Marvel movie. That's the goal. I don't know how to get there. And then Kevin Feige's like, just make something cool.
Yeah, that's how they.
And I'm like, all right. So it's the same thing for you. It's like, how do I get noticed by them? It's like, make something cool that they would like, and then you're on their radar. And it's like, all right.
Well, if I make something funny, they'll see it. But like, yeah, I hear that all the time. Red Letter Media talks about it a lot, where like they'll take a director who made like an indie movie that's really good and well received, and now they're making Jurassic Park, and they're making
Jurassic World.
You know, they're making the next Marvel movie. They're directing Ant-Man or whatever. They made one good movie, and now they're in the system.
They're in the talks.
They're in Disney now.
Yeah, they had a whole interview. Maybe they weren't taken, but they were considered. Like, that's all cool stuff. And I wonder how it works. Because I think about Taika Waititi specifically. I'm like, I wonder if he was already a Thor fan, or if they went to him and like, here's a character, read up on this dude. We want you to make a Thor movie, and then he did his research and came back with I don't know how it works. I got to get him on the podcast.
From the interviews that I've seen of Taika, he didn't know anything about Thor, or it was like me, where like maybe he saw the movies or whatever, but he'd never like read the comics or looked into the lore or whatever, and then he just got approached to do that movie because he's a funny guy, and they wanted to make Thor funnier. Because
they like his tone, and they like what he brings to the table, and then they mesh it, and then they make it. Yeah. So yeah, that's the creative pursuit, man.
Yeah. Maybe one
day
I'll be creative enough to make money.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, who knows? I think I'm funny. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think you're funny too sometimes.
That's good. It's a good start.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have really anything else.
We're pretty much there. I'm trying to see if I have anything else before I let you go.
I don't have anything positive left, so I don't think you want to land on that.
Okay. All right, so is your favorite animal still bear? You still like the grizzly?
If I had to pick an animal, probably, yeah. I haven't really tried. I don't I don't have any reason to choose anything else.
Yeah, I still like tigers.
That's good.
Cool.
That was your question.
And that's a closing question, everybody.
Wow.
No, I had nothing here. I'm happy I got to chat with you on the podcast. I'm looking forward to future looking back on this moment and being like, oh,
This is a
because
transitionary point.
it's a very, like many people, this is a very, would you say
Transitionary.
Yeah, transitionary point in lives. So I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll see. See how this election goes.
Don't you worry. All right. So I guess one final thing to keep in mind on the time capsule-ness of this episode,
Okay.
in relation to the family dynamic here, the brother to brother. I don't know. I was gonna say the lame kind of thing of like I like when videos have the future you reacting to the previous you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought that at that time that was adorable.
I never think positively about my previous opinions. I was thinking
because you're always growing, you're always becoming better.
What a dumb caveman! Why would I believe that?
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. You got to keep yourself in check.
I'm very self-critical to a point where it's unhealthy.
Maybe too critical.
Oh yeah. There's a reason that I throw away all the things that I write.
I got that. That is too critical.
It's like, oh, this is trash. Never look at it again.
Yeah.
No one should see this.
Yeah. Well, what's the for account? Because I'm a fan of accountability. What's the next thing what's the goal?
I'm just trying. Like right now, the goals are.
You're just trying to write.
The goals. Well, I don't even know about that. I'm trying to get enough because the problem that I have is that I'm taking on too many things at the same time. I'm learning guitar. I'm writing. I'm live streaming. I'm exercising, and I'm trying to keep up with news at the same time. So, like, things got to give a little bit because even though I'm unemployed, so you think that I have a lot of time. You just don't want to do stuff a lot of the time. I wake up and I don't want to. I wake up at 8 a.m. and I don't get out of bed till noon or whatever because I just feel bad.
Yeah.
And then I lose my guitar practice and I lose like all this time. And then I watch Sports Center for like 4 hours and it's like, oh, the whole day's gone.
Yeah.
So right now I'm trying to focus on fitness because it's important to me to be healthy and to be just physically ready to do stuff, whether it's bouldering or hiking or whatever, so that way I can be outside.
Physical health, mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is important too.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of. I mean, I don't have insurance, so I can't get like a cheap or free therapist or whatever. But I've been looking into it. But the goal really is right now just to consistently work on podcasting and live streaming because they're the two things that I can easily control.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just get writer's block and like, what am I going to do? Blame myself for not being able to write for 30 minutes because I just couldn't think of anything.
Yeah.
I can always, add a little bit of editing. I can always do research on how to use programs better and stuff.
That's what it always comes down to, right? Is like what's in my control right now? What could I do to further myself in whatever way? Like I watched like Mike Shinoda went to USC and did a little chat. And one of the things he said was when they're making hybrid theory, he's like, because there's so much going on, you're like, what is in my control? And he's like, you know what? The goal is I'm going to make 70 tracks. And that's like a number you can build toward, is like, and then you boil it down from there for the best of the best, and this is going to be our first album. Yep. But like having that big number to aim for is in your control.
Yeah, and it makes every single one less pressure. So not like I need to make 10 perfect tracks. I need to make 70 anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean that's the old Jerry Seinfeld method. He allegedly, I don't know how true it is. I don't remember I even learned this, but he had a thing where he would play a game called Don't Stop the Chain. Because on a calendar, his goal every day was to write one joke. And then whenever he wrote a joke, he'd put an X on the calendar. And the goal was to never break the chain. Always write a joke. No matter how bad it was, write something. And that's basically the same idea. You get better by just doing something consistently. Consistency is the biggest thing. So that's what I'm working on is
You're right.
consistency. Because for positive and negative aspects of my personality, I have a tendency to binge. So I'll overeat. I'll eat like a whole cake in a day, and then 2 weeks later I'll run like 4 miles at once, and then walk another 8. Be like, that made me healthy.
Right.
So I was just trying to consistently be moving in a positive direction. That's the goal.
That's a good goal.
So whatever that means, however you measure that.
No, consistency is key.
Exercising more regularly, trying to, the thing that I'm working on a lot in the last couple of months is stretching, because I hate stretching. So that way I get injured less, and I stay sore for less.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You got to take care of yourself. That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir. Whew. All right. So it's time to return back to reality.
Oops.
And, but yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we will see you next time.
Yeah, whenever that is.
All right. Bye.
What?